Still single. What a disappointment you are." My mother's voice rang out across the living room, cutting through the cheerful Christmas music like a knife. I stood there, balancing a tray of cookies I had just pulled from the oven, feeling every pair of eyes in the room turn toward me. The familiar heat of humiliation crept up my neck. "Mom, please," I said quietly, setting the tray down on the coffee table with trembling hands. "Please what?" She waved her hand dismissively, her wedding rings catching the light from the Christmas tree. "I'm just stating facts, Marianne. You're 37 years old. Your sister got married at 25. Even your cousin Patricia found someone, and she used to be so shy. This was the annual tradition I had come to dread. Every Christmas, without fail, my mother found a way to announce my single status to the entire family as if it were breaking news. The sympathetic looks from aunts, the awkward silence from uncles, the barely concealed smirks from my younger cousins. I knew them all by heart. My name is Marianne, and I am turning 38 in February. I live in Portland, Oregon, where I work as a senior marketing director for Bright Hollow Labs, a pharmaceutical research company. To the outside world, my life might look successful. I have a beautiful apartment overlooking the river, a career I have worked tirelessly to build, and financial independence. But to my family, none of that mattered. The only measure of success they recognized was whether I had a husband and children. "Eleanor, maybe we should talk about something else," my father said from his armchair, though his voice lacked conviction. He never really stood up to my mother, not in the 39 years they had been married. "Why should we?" Mom continued, turning to face the room full of relatives who had gathered for our annual Christmas celebration. "Maybe if we talk about it enough, she will finally do something about it. I mean, look at her. She is not getting any younger." My sister Victoria, sitting on the couch with her husband Gerald and their 2 children, looked down at her wineglass. She would not meet my eyes. We used to be close when we were younger, but somewhere along the way, she had started echoing our mother's views. Or maybe she had always agreed, and I just had not wanted to see it. "I have a fulfilling life, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My career is important to me." "A career doesn't keep you warm at night," my mother shot back. "A career doesn't give you grandchildren. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my friends ask about you?" "Oh, Marianne is still focusing on her career, I have to say. They all give me those pitying looks." I felt something crack inside me, but I swallowed it down. This was not the first time, and I had learned over the years that defending myself only made things worse. Mom would just dig in harder, and the rest of the family would watch the spectacle like it was entertainment. "The ham smells wonderful," I said, desperately trying to change the subject. "Should I check on it?" "Don't change the subject," Mom said sharply. "This is important. You're wasting your life, Marianne. Those supposed business trips you take, that fancy apartment. What's it all for if you're going to end up alone?" I noticed my Uncle Robert shifting uncomfortably in his seat. My Aunt Susan was examining her fingernails with great interest. Nobody was going to help me. They never did. "Maybe Marianne is happy with her choices," my father offered weakly. But Mom silenced him with a look. "Happy? How can she be happy? It's not natural to be alone at her age. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to help her see reality." The thing was, I had someone. I had been with someone for almost 3 years. But I kept that part of my life completely separate from my family. I had learned early on that bringing someone home meant subjecting them to my mother's scrutiny, her comments, her endless comparisons to Victoria's husband. It meant watching them become uncomfortable, watching the relationship strain under the weight of family expectations. So I said nothing. I let them believe I was alone, that I was the family disappointment, the career woman who had prioritized work over finding a partner. It was easier than the alternative. "I'm just saying," Mom continued, her voice taking on that martyred tone she used when she wanted everyone to know how much she suffered. It would be nice to have something positive to tell people about my eldest daughter for once. I picked up my wine glass, my hand surprisingly steady despite the storm inside me. "I'll go check on the ham," I said, and walked toward the kitchen before anyone could stop me. As I stood in front of the oven, pretending to adjust the temperature, I heard my mother's voice drifting from the living room. She was already talking about something else, probably detailing Victoria's latest achievements or her grandchildren's accomplishments. The moment had passed for her. For me, it would linger for weeks. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message. "The usual Christmas disaster. Call you later?" The response came almost immediately. "I'm sorry, love. You don't have to keep doing this to yourself." But I did. At least I thought I did. It was family, after all. And despite everything, some small part of me still hoped that one day, my mother would see me for who I really was, not just for what I had failed to become in her eyes. Growing up, I had always been the responsible one. While Victoria played with dolls and dreamed of wedding dresses, I buried myself in books and earned scholarships. I graduated top of my class, secured internships at prestigious companies, and built a career that I was genuinely proud of. But none of it mattered to Mom. I remembered being 25, fresh out of graduate school, excited to share my first major promotion with the family. Mom had listened politely, then immediately shifted the conversation to Victoria's new boyfriend. "At least one of you has your priorities straight," she had said. That was when I started to understand. No matter what I achieved professionally, it would never count as success in my mother's eyes. Marriage and children were the only currencies that held value in her world. The worst part was not even the criticism itself. It was the way the entire family had learned to treat me as an afterthought. Christmas gifts were practical items, kitchen gadgets, office supplies, while Victoria received jewelry and sentimental keepsakes. Holiday toasts celebrated her milestones, her children's achievements, her husband's promotions. I was the garnish on the family portrait, present but not essential. I had tried bringing someone home once, years ago. His name was Kenneth, and we had been dating for about 8 months. He was kind, intelligent, worked in finance. I thought he would be exactly the kind of man my mother would approve of. The dinner was a disaster. Mom spent the entire evening interrogating him about his career prospects, his family background, his intentions. "You know, Marianne is not getting any younger," she had said at one point, as if I were livestock at auction. "If you're not serious about this, it's cruel to waste her time." Kenneth had been polite throughout, but I saw the discomfort in his eyes. After that dinner, things between us changed. He became distant, started making excuses to avoid family events. 3 months later, he ended things. "Your family is a lot," he had said, and I could not even argue with him. After that, I decided to keep my personal life completely private. I dated, but I never brought anyone home. I never mentioned relationships to my family. It was easier to be the perpetually single daughter than to subject someone I cared about to my mother's particular brand of toxic concern. Then, about 3 years ago, everything changed. I met someone at a pharmaceutical industry conference in Seattle. We were both speaking on the same panel about marketing strategies for breakthrough medical technologies. He was brilliant, successful, and surprisingly down-to-earth despite his wealth. We started talking, and we had not stopped since. His name was Jonathan, and he was everything I never knew I was looking for. He was the founder and CEO of Verdale Textiles, a company that had revolutionized sustainable fabric manufacturing. He was a self-made millionaire who still insisted on doing his own grocery shopping and cooking Sunday dinners for us in his downtown penthouse. But I kept him secret from my family. Not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted to protect what we had. I wanted one part of my life that remained untouched by my mother's judgment. One relationship that could grow without the weight of family expectations crushing it. Jonathan understood. He came from a large, loving family himself, and while they occasionally asked about meeting mine, he respected my boundaries. "When you're ready," he always said. "I'm not going anywhere." Occasionally, I wondered if I was being cowardly. Was I protecting our relationship, or was I protecting myself? Maybe part of me enjoyed having this secret, this proof that I was not the failure my mother believed me to be. The business trips Mom mentioned dismissively were real, but they were not always what she thought. Sometimes Jonathan and I would meet in different cities, San Francisco, Boston, New York. He would arrange his business travel to coincide with mine, and we would steal weekends together, exploring new restaurants, visiting museums, simply enjoying each other's company without the pressure of family scrutiny. He had asked me to marry him 6 months ago. We were in his apartment, cooking dinner together, something we did often. He had been chopping vegetables when he suddenly set down the knife, wiped his hands on a towel, and pulled out a ring. "I know your family situation is complicated," he had said. "And I know you might need time before you want to make any announcements. But I need you to know that I want to spend my life with you, Marianne. Whenever you're ready to share that with the world, I'll be here." I had said yes immediately. We decided on a quiet ceremony, just the two of us and a witness, at City Hall. We were legally married 3 months ago, but I had not told my family. I told myself I was waiting for the right moment, but the truth was more complicated than that. Part of me was afraid that once they knew, everything would change. Jonathan would become real to them, and they would dissect our relationship, compare it to Victoria's marriage, find ways it fell short. My mother would probably criticize his career choice. Textiles were not as impressive as finance or medicine in her mind. Or she would accuse me of trying to show up Victoria. But another part of me, a part that was growing stronger with each passing holiday season, wanted them to know. Wanted to see their faces when they realized their disappointment of a daughter was not only married, but married to someone successful and kind. Wanted them to understand that their definition of worth was not the only one that mattered. As I stood in the kitchen that Christmas evening, listening to the muffled sounds of my family in the other room, I made a decision. This could not go on forever. Something had to change. The rest of that Christmas evening passed in its usual rhythm. Dinner was served. Compliments were given to Victoria for bringing such a lovely dessert, even though I had baked it. Gifts were exchanged, and the children squealed with delight over their presents. I received a set of dish towels and a calendar featuring motivational quotes about self-improvement. "I thought these might inspire you," Mom said, patting my hand. "It's never too late to make changes." I smiled and thanked her, tucking the calendar under my arm. Jonathan would find it hilarious. He had a running joke about my family's gift choices. Last year's stress relief candle was still sitting unopened on his bookshelf, as a monument to their creative passive aggression. As family members started to leave, hugging and promising to see each other soon, I helped with the cleanup. Victoria cornered me in the kitchen while we were loading the dishwasher. "You know Mom means well," she said quietly. "She just worries about you." "Does she?" I asked, scrubbing a serving platter with more force than necessary. "Because it doesn't feel like worry, Victoria. It feels like judgment. She's from a different generation. She doesn't understand the whole career woman thing." "The career woman thing?" I set the platter down and turned to face my sister. "Is that really how you see it? Like it's a phase or a lifestyle choice rather than my actual life?" Victoria sighed, looking uncomfortable. "I'm just saying, maybe if you tried a little harder to meet someone, she wouldn't feel the need to comment so much. There are apps now, you know. Patricia met her husband on one." I almost told her right then. Almost said, "I am married. I have been married for 3 months. My husband owns a company, lives in a penthouse, and treats me like I actually matter." But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way Victoria spoke about my life, as if it were a problem that needed solving. Maybe it was the realization that even if I told her, she would probably just relay the information to Mom with some commentary about how I should have mentioned it sooner. "I'll keep that in mind," I said instead, and returned to the dishes. When I finally left my parents' house, it was nearly 10 o'clock. The drive back to my apartment usually took 40 minutes, but I took the long way, needing time to decompress. The streets were quiet, Christmas lights twinkling in windows, families visible through curtains, wrapped in their own holiday celebrations. My phone rang as I was pulling into my parking garage. Jonathan's face filled the screen, and I felt some of the tension drain from my shoulders. "Hey," I answered, putting the phone on speaker as I gathered my things. "How bad was it this year?" His voice was warm, concerned. Scale of 1 to 10? Probably a 7. She worked the single disappointment angle, mentioned that I'm not getting any younger, and implied that my business trips are just excuses. "I'm sorry, love. It's fine. It's always like this." I locked my car and headed toward the elevator. "Are you still at your parents'?" "Just left. They asked about you again. My mom wants to know when she can finally meet the mysterious woman who stole her son's heart." I smiled despite myself. Jonathan's family sounded so different from mine. His mother apparently baked cookies every weekend and had a standing Sunday dinner tradition where everyone was welcome. His 3 siblings were all happily married with kids, but they also had careers and interests outside their families. It sounded almost fictional. "Maybe soon," I said, though I had been saying that for months. "No pressure," he assured me. "Just know that the invitation stands whenever you're ready." I entered my apartment, dropping my keys on the console table. The space was dark except for the soft glow of the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Can you come over? I know it's late, but I'm already on my way. Should be there in 20 minutes. That was Jonathan. He always knew what I needed before I had to ask. While I waited, I changed out of my dress into comfortable clothes and made tea. I looked at the motivational calendar my mother had given me, flipping through the months. January's quote read, "The only person holding you back is yourself." When Jonathan arrived, he immediately pulled me into a hug. He smelled like expensive cologne and winter air. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. I recounted the evening in detail. Mom's announcement, the family's silence, Victoria's kitchen conversation. He listened without interrupting, his arms around me, occasionally pressing a kiss to my forehead. "You know this can't continue," he said gently when I finished. "Not like this. Every time you go there, you come back hurt. They're my family. Family shouldn't make you feel like this." He pulled back to look at me. "Marianne, you are brilliant, successful, kind, and so much more than they give you credit for. The fact that they can't see that is their loss, not your failure. I know. Logically, I know that. But emotionally, it still hurts." I nodded, feeling tears prick my eyes. Every single time I tell myself I won't let it get to me, and every single time I end up feeling exactly like I did when I was 16, and Mom compared me to the neighbor's daughter who was engaged. Jonathan was quiet for a moment, then said, "What if this year was different?" "What do you mean?" "What if next Christmas, when she starts in on the disappointment routine, you had something to say back? Something that would change the entire conversation?" I looked at him, seeing the wheels turning in his mind. Like what? Like introducing them to your husband. Like showing them that their idea of your life is completely wrong. Like finally standing up for yourself in a way they can't ignore. The idea sent a thrill of fear and excitement through me. That's almost a year away. A lot could happen between now and then. Or nothing could happen, he countered. You could spend another year hiding, another year letting them believe their narrative about you, or you could decide that next Christmas is going to be different. The months after that Christmas conversation with Jonathan were strange. Part of me wanted to rush home and announce everything immediately, to shatter their misconceptions right away. But another part, the part that had learned to be cautious, to protect myself, held back. I told myself I was being strategic, waiting for the right moment. But really, I was scared. January came and went. February brought my 38th birthday, which my family acknowledged with a text message from Victoria and a card from my parents that arrived 3 days late. "Hope this year brings you what you're looking for," my mother had written inside. The implication was clear. In March, I got promoted to executive director at Bright Hollow Labs. It was a massive achievement, youngest person to hold the position in the company's history, a significant salary increase, and a seat on the executive board. I was over the moon. I called my parents to share the news. My father answered. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," he said, and I could hear the genuine pride in his voice. "Your mother's just finishing up at her book club. Let me have her call you back." She never did. Victoria sent a text. "Congrats on the promotion. Mom's worried all this work stress isn't good for you. Maybe take some time off. You could join a class or something, meet people." I stared at that message for a long time. Even my achievements were reframed as problems, as obstacles preventing me from finding what really mattered. I showed it to Jonathan that evening. "That's it," he said, his jaw tight with anger. "Marianne, this is toxic. They're never going to celebrate you the way you deserve." "I know." "Do you? Because you keep going back. You keep hoping they'll change, that one day they'll wake up and see you." "What am I supposed to do? Cut them off completely?" "I'm not saying that. I'm saying set boundaries. Tell them the truth. Stop protecting them from reality." We fought that night, our first real fight. Jonathan thought I was being a coward, hiding behind excuses. I thought he couldn't understand because his family actually supported him. We said things we didn't mean, and I ended up sleeping in the guest room. By morning, we had apologized. But something had shifted. The secret I had been keeping started to feel less like protection and more like a burden. In April, Victoria announced she was pregnant with her third child. The family chat exploded with congratulations and excitement. I added my own congratulations, genuinely happy for my sister despite everything. But then came my mother's voice message. "Isn't this wonderful? Another grandbaby." "You know, Marianne, if you're ever going to have children, you need to start thinking seriously about it. Your sister's younger than you, and this is already her third. Time doesn't stop for anyone, and you've wasted so much of it already." I played it for Jonathan. His face darkened. "That's cruel. You know that's cruel, right? It's just mom being mom." "No, it's abuse. Emotional abuse. Just because it's subtle doesn't make it any less damaging." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Deep down, I knew he was right. Memorial Day weekend brought a family barbecue at my parents' house. Jonathan had a business trip to Denver, so I went alone. I almost made an excuse not to go, but some stubborn part of me still felt obligated. The barbecue was in full swing when I arrived. Victoria was there with her husband and kids, my Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan, various cousins. Everyone seemed relaxed and happy, drinking beer and wine, kids running around the yard. "There she is," my mother announced when she saw me. Our career woman finally gracing us with her presence. "Hi, Mom." I set down the potato salad I had brought, which I knew would be ignored in favor of whatever Victoria had made. "You look tired," Mom said, studying my face critically. "Are you sleeping enough? You work too hard. No wonder you can't find time for a personal life." I had actually been sleeping quite well, thank you very much. In fact, I had spent the previous weekend at Jonathan's family beach house, where his mother had insisted on teaching me her famous pancake recipe, and his father had asked detailed questions about my work because he found it genuinely interesting. But I said nothing. I just smiled and nodded and headed toward the drinks table. That was when I overheard it. Victoria and my mother were standing near the grill, talking in voices they thought were quiet enough. "I worry about her," Mom was saying. "I really do. At this point, I think she's given up. She'll never find anyone now." Maybe she doesn't want to, Victoria offered. Maybe she's just focused on work. That's not a life, Victoria. That's an excuse. I see women like her all the time, career-obsessed, pushing everyone away, and then they wake up at 50 and realize they're completely alone. I've tried to help her, but she's stubborn. Always has been. What if she is happy, though? She's not. She can't be. It's not natural. I'm her mother. I know these things. She probably cries herself to sleep every night in that empty apartment. I stood there, potato salad in hand, listening to my mother describe a life that wasn't mine. Listening to her reduce me to a cautionary tale, a warning about what happens to women who make the wrong choices. The worst part was Victoria's response. I guess you're right. It is kind of sad. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Just cracked. Like a fault line forming in bedrock. I had spent years accepting their narrative, letting them define me, believing that maybe if I was just patient enough, understanding enough, they would eventually see me clearly. But they didn't want to see me. They wanted to see their version of me. The disappointment, the warning, the example of what not to do. I set down the potato salad, grabbed my keys, and walked out. Nobody even noticed I was leaving. In my car, I sat in my parents' driveway and called Jonathan. Hey, how's the barbecue? He answered. I need you to clear your schedule for next Christmas. There was a pause. Okay, what's going on? I'm done. I'm done letting them define me. I'm done being their disappointment. You were right. Next Christmas is going to be different. What do you want to do? I want to walk into that house with you. I want to introduce you as my husband. I want to watch their faces when they realize how wrong they've been about me. Are you sure? This is a big step. I've never been more sure of anything. They get to spend one more Christmas thinking I'm alone, thinking I'm miserable, thinking they know my life. And then we're going to show them exactly how wrong they are. Jonathan was quiet for a moment, then said, I'm proud of you, Marianne. I started the car and drove away from my parents' house, feeling lighter than I had in years. I wasn't running away anymore. I was making a choice. The rest of the year became about preparation, though I didn't think of it that way at the time. I threw myself into work, achieving goals I had set years ago. The promotion gave me more visibility in the pharmaceutical industry, and I started getting invitations to speak at conferences, to contribute to publications. Jonathan and I also started building something together. He had been toying with an idea for a sustainable textile line specifically for medical facilities, fabrics that were both environmentally friendly and met strict healthcare standards. My knowledge of the pharmaceutical world and his expertise in textiles created a natural synergy. We spent evenings sketching out business plans, weekends visiting manufacturing facilities, building something that was ours together. His family embraced me completely. His mother, Patricia, insisted I call her Mom, which felt both wonderful and strange. His father, William, took me sailing and asked my opinion on everything from politics to his golf swing. This is what family should feel like, I told Jonathan one Sunday evening after dinner at his parents' house. It is, he agreed. But your family could be like this too, if they chose to be. By July, I had stopped answering my mother's calls as frequently. When she left voicemails about setting me up with her friend's divorced son, or suggested I try a new dating app, I simply deleted them. Victoria's texts went unanswered for days, sometimes weeks. Is everything okay? Victoria asked in one message. You've been really distant lately. Just busy with work, I replied, which was true. But it was also easier to maintain distance than to keep subjecting myself to their judgment. In August, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. I was home, thankfully without Jonathan, working on a presentation. You've been avoiding me, she said when I opened the door, not even waiting for an invitation before walking in. I've been calling. Victoria says you barely respond to her messages. I've been busy, Mom. Too busy for family? She looked around my apartment with critical eyes, the same way she always had. This place is so cold. No personal touches. Don't you want it to feel like a home? Actually, Jonathan's toothbrush was in the bathroom, his favorite coffee in the kitchen, his books on the nightstand. But I had hidden all evidence before answering the door, some automatic instinct kicking in. "It's fine for me," I said. "That's the problem, Marianne. You've settled for fine. You've settled for this half-life." She sat down on my couch uninvited. "I didn't raise you to be alone." "I'm not—" I started, then stopped. This wasn't the time. I had a plan for Christmas. "I'm happy, Mom. Why can't that be enough?" "Because you're lying to yourself. I'm your mother. I know you. This Independence Act, this career focus, it's all just a way to avoid admitting that you've failed at what really matters." The words hit harder than I expected. Failed. That was the word she had been dancing around for years, but she had finally said it outright. "I think you should go," I said quietly. "Don't you dare dismiss me. I came here because I care about you, because someone needs to tell you the truth. You're running out of time, Marianne. Soon it's going to be too late for marriage, for children, for any of it. Is that really what you want? To end up alone?" I said you should go. She stood up, gathering her purse with exaggerated dignity. "Fine. Push everyone away. That's what you're good at. But don't come crying to me in 10 years when you finally wake up and realize what you've thrown away." After she left, I called Jonathan. I was shaking. "She actually said that?" His voice was tight with controlled anger. "She said you'd failed?" "She said worse. This isn't new, Jonathan. But it keeps happening. Marianne, I hate seeing you like this. You deserve so much better." "I know. That's why I'm doing this. That's why Christmas is going to be different." But something had shifted after that visit. My mother's words burrowed into my brain, creating doubt where I thought I had built certainty. What if they were right? What if I had wasted my time? No, I knew that wasn't true. I had Jonathan. I had my career. I had a life I had built with intention and purpose. Still, the doubt lingered. In September, Victoria called, her voice excited. "I have news. Gerald got offered a position in Seattle. We're moving in November. Can you believe it?" I was genuinely happy for her. "That's wonderful, Victoria. Congratulations." Mom's devastated, of course. She's going to lose daily contact with the grandkids, but it's such a great opportunity. She paused. "She mentioned you two had a fight?" "She came to my apartment uninvited and insulted my life choices. I asked her to leave." "Marianne, she's just worried about you." "Why does everyone keep saying that? Her worry looks a lot like cruelty, Victoria." "That's not fair. She loves you." "Does she? Because I'm not sure what love looks like to you all, but it shouldn't feel like this." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Maybe you're right to keep your distance. I wish things were different. I wish we could all get along." "Me too," I said. And I meant it. But I was beginning to understand that getting along meant accepting their version of reality, and I wasn't willing to do that anymore. October brought an unexpected complication. My father had a heart attack. Not severe, but serious enough to require hospitalization and lifestyle changes. I rushed to the hospital, where I found my mother in the waiting room, her face pale and drawn. "He's stable," she said when she saw me. "They said it was mild, but he has to make changes. Diet, exercise, stress." I sat next to her, and for a moment, we were just two women worried about someone we loved. No judgment, no criticism, just shared concern. "I'm glad you're here," she said quietly. "Victoria's trying to get a flight, but with the move and everything." "I'm here, Mom." She looked at me. really looked at me, for the first time in years. "You've always been here, haven't you? Even when I—" She stopped, seeming to struggle with words. "I haven't always been fair to you, Marianne." My heart jumped. Was this it? Was this the moment of recognition I had been waiting for? But then she continued. "I push because I care, because I see you wasting your potential. Your father had a heart attack, Marianne. What if something happens to us, and you're all alone? Who will take care of you?" And just like that, the moment passed. The concern wasn't about what she had done to me. It was still about what I had failed to become. "Dad's going to be fine," I said, standing up. "I'll stay until Victoria gets here, but then I need to get back to work." "Of course, work." She said it like a curse. I stepped into the hallway and texted Jonathan. "Christmas can't come soon enough. I need them to see. I need them to understand." His response was immediate. "They will. I promise. They will." November was chaos. Victoria's move to Seattle was complicated by the fact that she was now 7 months pregnant. I helped where I could, which meant listening to my mother's constant complaints about being abandoned by her favorite daughter. "First you pull away. Now Victoria's moving across the country," she said during one particularly dramatic phone call. "Soon I'll have no daughters at all." "I'm right here, Mom." "Are you? Because it doesn't feel like it. You're so wrapped up in that job of yours. Do you even know what's happening in this family anymore?" I could have told her that I knew Dad's cholesterol numbers, that I had researched heart-healthy recipes and sent them to her, that I had been checking in regularly despite her constant criticism. But I didn't. I was saving my energy for Christmas. Jonathan and I spent Thanksgiving with his family at their estate in wine country. It was my first major holiday with them, and the contrast to my own family gatherings was stark. His mother taught me how to make her grandmother's stuffing recipe. His father insisted on teaching me about wine pairings, though I suspected he just enjoyed having a new audience. His siblings, Thomas, Jessica, and Sophie, welcomed me like I had always been part of the family. "Mom's been waiting for Jonathan to settle down," Jessica confided while we were setting the table. She was starting to think he was married to his company. "But then he met you, and suddenly he had time for family dinners, for holidays. You're good for him." "He's good for me, too," I said, meaning it completely. That Thanksgiving dinner was everything a family gathering should be. There was laughter, teasing, genuine interest in each other's lives. When Jonathan told his family about our business venture, the sustainable medical textiles, they asked intelligent questions and offered useful contacts. "Your family is amazing," I told Jonathan that night as we lay in the guest room of his parents' house. "They're your family too now," he reminded me. "That's what marriage means." "I know. It's hard to wrap my head around. The fact that families can actually be like this." He pulled me closer. 1 month until Christmas. "Are you ready?" "I think so. I'm nervous." "That's normal. But Marianne, remember, this isn't about proving anything to them. This is about you finally standing up for yourself, about not letting them define you anymore." "I know, but part of me still wants them to, I don't know, apologize? Realize what they've done? They might, but they might not. And you need to be prepared for that." He was right, of course. There was no guarantee that revealing my marriage would change anything. But at least I would have tried. At least I would have stopped hiding. December arrived with the usual flurry of Christmas preparations. My mother called to confirm I was coming to Christmas dinner. "Of course," I said. "I wouldn't miss it." "Good. Victoria's flying in with the family. It will be nice to all be together. Well, most of us together. Some of us still have families to bring." The dig was automatic, reflexive. I didn't even react anymore. "Actually, Mom, I was hoping to bring someone this year. Someone special." There was a pause. "Special?" "Marianne, If this is another one of those work friends you're going to pass off as something more, it's not. This is someone I've been seeing for a while, someone I want the family to meet. Seeing? For how long? A few years. A few years? Her voice rose. And you're just now mentioning this? Who is he? What does he do? Why have you been hiding him? You'll meet him at Christmas. I want it to be a surprise. I don't like surprises, Marianne. Tell me now. Christmas, Mom. I'll tell you everything at Christmas. I hung up before she could argue further. My hands were shaking, but I felt exhilarated. The ball was in motion now. There was no going back. Over the next few weeks, my mother called repeatedly, demanding information. I held firm. Victoria texted. Mom says you're bringing someone to Christmas? Is this real, or are you just trying to get her off your back? It's real, I texted back. You'll see. Jonathan and I prepared carefully. We discussed exactly how we wanted to handle it, what we would say, how we would present ourselves. He was surprisingly calm about the whole thing. I've been waiting 3 years to meet your family, he said. Well, maybe not waiting exactly, but I'm ready. The question is, are you ready for them to meet me? I am. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being treated like a failure when I have this incredible life they know nothing about. 2 days before Christmas, my mother left a voicemail. Marianne, this mystery person better be serious. I'm not having you embarrass this family by bringing some casual fling to Christmas dinner. Victoria thinks you're making this up. Please tell me you're not making this up. I showed the message to Jonathan. He shook his head in disbelief. Even now, she assumes the worst about you. That's kind of the point of all this, isn't it? To show her how wrong she's been. Christmas Eve arrived. Jonathan and I were at his penthouse, having a quiet evening before the chaos of the next day. He had surprised me with an early gift, a stunning necklace with a pendant that matched my wedding ring. For tomorrow, he said, fastening it around my neck. So when they see it, they'll understand just how committed we are to each other. I looked at myself in the mirror. The necklace was beautiful, expensive, understated but elegant. Exactly my style. Thank you. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Marianne, I'm proud to be your husband. I want everyone to know it, including your family. That night I barely slept. I kept imagining the moment, walking through the door with Jonathan, seeing their faces, making the announcement. In some versions, my mother was shocked into silence, forced to confront her own assumptions. In others, she tried to find fault even with this, some way to diminish my happiness. By morning, I was exhausted but determined. Jonathan made coffee and breakfast, his usual calm presence steadying my nerves. Ready? He asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at him. This man who had chosen me, who saw me clearly, who never once made me feel like I wasn't enough. Ready? We drove to my parents' house in his car, a sleek electric vehicle that whispered wealth without shouting it. As we pulled into the familiar driveway, I saw Victoria's rental car already there. This is it, I said. Jonathan took my hand. Whatever happens, we face it together. We walked to the door, and I could hear voices inside, the familiar sounds of Christmas at my parents' house. For a moment I hesitated. Then I thought about every dismissive comment, every disappointed look, every time I had been made to feel less than. I thought about the life I had built, the love I had found, the person I had become despite their lack of support. I rang the doorbell. My mother opened the door, her face already arranged in that expression I knew so well. Half disappointment, half martyrdom. But when she saw Jonathan standing beside me, her expression shifted to confusion. Marianne, she said, her eyes darting between us. You're late. Everyone's already here. Sorry, Mom. Traffic. I stepped inside, Jonathan's hand warm in mine. "I'd like you to meet someone very special to me." The living room fell quiet. Victoria was on the couch with Gerald and their kids. My father sat in his usual chair, looking healthier than he had in months. Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan were by the fireplace. All eyes turned to us. "Everyone," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "This is Jonathan." Jonathan extended his hand to my mother with an easy smile. "It's wonderful to finally meet you. Marianne has told me so much about her family." My mother took his hand automatically, still processing. We didn't know Marianne was bringing anyone." "I mentioned it," I said. "I wanted it to be a surprise." "Well, it certainly is that," my father said, standing up with some effort. He shook Jonathan's hand, studying him with open curiosity. "Nice to meet you, young man. How long have you and my daughter been seeing each other?" 3 years, Jonathan said easily, "though it feels like I've known her my whole life." The room went utterly silent. I could see my mother's face cycling through emotions, shock, confusion, and something that might have been anger. 3 years? Victoria finally said, her voice sharp. "You've been with someone for 3 years and never mentioned it?" "I wanted to keep it private," I said. "I wanted something that was just mine, something that wasn't subject to family scrutiny." "Family scrutiny?" My mother's voice rose. "We're your family, Marianne. You're supposed to share these things with us." 3 years? What kind of person hides a relationship for 3 years? "The kind who's been criticized and judged her entire life," I said quietly. "The kind who's been called a disappointment every Christmas. The kind who's been treated like a failure for choosing a different path." Jonathan's hand tightened around mine, a silent show of support. "That's not fair," my mother said. "I've only ever wanted what's best for you." "No, Mom. You've wanted what you think is best for me. There's a difference." My father cleared his throat. "Maybe we should all sit down, have some coffee, get to know Jonathan properly. I'm sure there's a lot we can learn about him." "Yes," my mother said, seizing on this. "Tell us about yourself, Jonathan. What do you do?" "I'm in textiles," Jonathan said. "I founded a company called Verdale Textiles about 15 years ago. We specialize in sustainable fabric manufacturing." "Textiles," my mother repeated, and I could hear the dismissal in her voice. "That must be interesting. And where did you go to school?" "Stanford for undergrad, MIT for my MBA." That gave her pause. "Oh, well, that's impressive. And your family? What do they do?" "My father was a civil engineer, retired now. My mother was a teacher. I have 3 siblings, an architect, a pediatrician, and a corporate lawyer." I watched as my mother processed this information, trying to find some flaw, some reason to be unimpressed. But Jonathan's credentials were impeccable, his family respectable. She couldn't dismiss him the way she had probably hoped to. Victoria spoke up, her voice cautious. "How did you two meet?" "At a pharmaceutical conference in Seattle," Jonathan said. "We were both speaking on the same panel. Your sister was brilliant. She still is. I knew immediately I wanted to get to know her better." "A conference," my mother said. "How romantic." The sarcasm wasn't lost on anyone, but before I could respond, Jonathan did. "Actually, it was romantic. We spent the whole evening talking, sharing our ideas and dreams. I've never met anyone as intelligent, driven, and genuine as Marianne. She challenged me, inspired me, made me want to be better." He looked at me, his expression so full of love that my throat tightened. Falling in love with her was the easiest thing I've ever done. The room was quiet again. But this time the silence felt different. My father was smiling slightly. Even Victoria looked touched. But my mother's face had hardened. "And you've been dating for 3 years," she said. "Are you planning to get married?" Or is this another one of those modern arrangements where people just live together indefinitely? This was it. The moment I had been planning for months. Actually, Mom, I said, reaching up to touch the necklace Jonathan had given me. We need to tell you something else. I took a deep breath, feeling Jonathan's steadying presence beside me. We're already married. We got married 3 months ago. The explosion was immediate. Married? My mother's voice was nearly a shriek. You got married and didn't tell us? You didn't invite your own family to your wedding? We had a small ceremony, I said. Just the two of us and a witness. It was what we wanted. What you wanted. My mother stood up, her face flushed. What about what we wanted? What about family tradition? Victoria had a beautiful wedding with all of us there. But you sneak off and get married in secret like you're ashamed of us? I wasn't ashamed of you, Mom. I was protecting myself. And protecting Jonathan from the way you treat me. The way I treat you? I've done nothing but care about you, worry about you. You've done nothing but criticize me. The words burst out of me, years of restraint finally breaking. Every holiday, every phone call, every interaction has been about how I'm not good enough, how I'm a disappointment, how I'm wasting my life. Do you have any idea what that feels like? To never be enough for your own mother? I was trying to help you. By calling me a disappointment every Christmas? By telling me I'd failed? By showing up at my apartment to tell me I was living a half-life? I was shaking now, but I couldn't stop. You've spent years making me feel worthless because I didn't follow the exact path you wanted. Because I chose my career. Because I didn't get married at 25. Because I dared to want something different than what you planned for me. Victoria stood up. Marianne, maybe you're being a bit... Don't, I said, turning to my sister. Don't tell me I'm being unfair. You've watched this happen for years and said nothing. You've participated in it. Every time Mom criticized me and you stayed silent, every time you echoed her concerns about my choices, you were part of it too. I was worried about you, Victoria said, but her voice lacked conviction. Were you? Or were you just comfortable being the good daughter, the one who did everything right? It was easier to let Mom focus on my failures than to risk her turning that criticism on you. My father finally spoke, his voice tired. Girls, please. It's Christmas. No, Dad. I looked at him. This man who had never once stood up for me. You don't get to play peacemaker now. You've had 37 years to tell Mom she was wrong, to defend me, to show me that you saw value in who I am. But you never did. You just sat there and let it happen. That's not fair, he said weakly. I was trying to keep the peace. By sacrificing me? By letting her treat me like a failure while you said nothing? Jonathan had been quiet through all of this, but now he stepped forward. I think what Marianne is trying to say is that she's built an incredible life. She's an executive director at a major pharmaceutical company. She's brilliant at what she does. She's kind, generous, and strong. And she's done all of this despite the fact that her own family refused to see her worth. We see her worth, my mother said, but it sounded hollow. Do you? Jonathan's voice was calm but firm. Because from what I've observed, you've spent years trying to convince her she's worthless without a husband and children. You've dismissed her achievements, ignored her successes, and made every holiday about what she lacks rather than what she's accomplished. We don't need a stranger telling us about our own daughter, my mother snapped. I'm not a stranger. I'm her husband. And I see her clearly, something you've apparently never been able to do. How dare you? No, Mom, I interrupted. How dare you? How dare you treat me like a disappointment when I've done nothing but work hard and build a good life? How dare you make me feel ashamed for choosing a different path? I never made you feel ashamed. You called me a single disappointment every Christmas. You told me I'd failed. You said I was wasting my life, that I was living a half-life. that I'd end up alone and miserable. Do you even hear yourself? Do you understand what you've done? My mother's face was red now, but I couldn't tell if it was from anger or something else. I was trying to protect you. I didn't want you to end up alone. But I'm not alone. I have Jonathan. I have a career I love. I have a life that makes me happy. The only thing that makes me unhappy is coming here and being treated like I'm broken. Victoria's daughter, my niece Emma, started crying. The little girl had been sitting quietly, but the shouting had frightened her. Victoria picked her up, soothing her, and shot me a look that was pure venom. "Happy now," she said. "You've ruined Christmas." "I didn't ruin it, Victoria. This has been ruined for years. I just finally said something about it." My Uncle Robert cleared his throat awkwardly. "Maybe we should all take a breath." "No," I said. "No more breathing. No more keeping the peace. No more pretending this is okay. Mom, I need you to hear this. I am not a disappointment. I am successful. I am loved. And I am happy. The fact that my happiness doesn't look like what you wanted doesn't make it less valid." My mother stood there, her mouth opening and closing, words seeming to fail her for once. The room was thick with tension, everyone frozen in this moment of brutal honesty. Then Jonathan spoke, his voice cutting through the silence with quiet authority. "There's something else you should know. Marianne isn't just an executive director. The work she's done at Bright Hollow Labs has been groundbreaking. She led the team that developed a new drug delivery system that's going to change pain management for cancer patients. She's been nominated for an Industry Innovation Award. And she did all of this while building a life with me, while planning our future together." He pulled out his phone and showed my mother something on the screen. "This is our home, the penthouse we share in downtown Portland. This is the beach house where we spent last summer. These are photos from Thanksgiving with my family. Our family now. Marianne has been living a full, rich life. She's just been living it away from people who couldn't appreciate her." My mother stared at the phone, her face going pale as she scrolled through images of a life she knew nothing about. Me laughing on a sailboat. Jonathan and me at a gala for the pharmaceutical industry. Me cooking in Jonathan's mother's kitchen, Patricia's arm around me. "I don't understand," my mother said, her voice small. "Why would you hide all of this from us?" "Because I was tired of being judged," I said. "Because every time I shared something good with you, you found a way to diminish it. My promotion? Just more work stress. My apartment? Too cold, too empty. My achievements? Meaningless without a husband. So I stopped sharing. I built a life that made me happy, and I kept it separate from you." "We're your family," Victoria said, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. "Are you? Because family should support each other. Family should celebrate each other's successes. Family should love each other unconditionally, not just when someone fits a specific mold." My father stood up slowly, his face pained. "Marianne, sweetheart, I think we've made some mistakes." "Some mistakes?" The laugh that escaped me was bitter. "Dad, you've spent my entire adult life sitting silently while Mom tore me apart. That's not some mistake. That's a choice you made every single day. I thought if I just kept the peace. You didn't keep the peace. You just let her treat me however she wanted." Jonathan's hand found mine again, grounding me. I looked at him, and in his eyes I saw understanding, support, and love. This was what family should feel like. This was what I deserved. I turned back to my mother. "I'm not asking for an apology, Mom. I don't think you're capable of giving me one that means anything. But I am done pretending this is normal. I'm done accepting your treatment as if it's love. I'm done being your cautionary tale." "Marianne," my mother started, but I held up my hand. "I'm done," I repeated. "Jonathan and I are leaving. We have plans with his family. People who actually want to spend time with me, who value me for who I am, not who they wish I was. You can't just leave, my mother said, and now I heard it, panic. It's Christmas. Family is together on Christmas. Then maybe you should have treated me like family, I said quietly. I walked toward the door, Jonathan beside me. Behind us, I heard my mother's voice, higher now, desperate. Marianne, wait, please. Let's talk about this. We can work this out. I stopped at the door and turned back one last time. My mother's face was crumpling, tears starting to fall. Victoria looked stricken. My father seemed to have aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. You had years to work this out, Mom. Years to see me, to value me, to treat me with basic respect. But you didn't. You chose to make me feel small so you could feel superior. You chose your narrative about my life over the reality I was living, and now you have to live with those choices. I never meant... My mother's voice broke. I was just trying to help you. I thought you needed guidance. I needed a mother who believed in me, I said. I needed parents who celebrated my successes instead of treating them as consolation prizes for not being married. I needed a family who saw me for who I am. But I didn't get that, so I found it elsewhere. Jonathan opened the door, and cold air rushed in, bringing with it the scent of snow. I stepped toward the threshold, toward freedom, toward the life I had built. Merry Christmas, Mom, I said. I hope someday you understand what you've lost. We walked out into the winter afternoon. Behind us, I heard my mother's voice calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Jonathan's car was parked in the driveway, a symbol of everything they hadn't known about my life. Are you okay? Jonathan asked as we got in. I thought about it for a moment, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. Yes, I said, surprised to find it was true. I'm actually okay. He started the car, and we drove away from my parents' house. In the rearview mirror, I could see my mother standing in the doorway, small and diminished. Part of me felt sad for her, for what she had lost by refusing to see me clearly. But mostly, I felt free. We drove toward downtown, toward Jonathan's family's house, where Patricia would be waiting with her famous Christmas cookies, and William would insist on teaching me some new card game. Where Jessica, Thomas, and Sophie would welcome me with genuine warmth, where children would run around excitedly, where I was valued for exactly who I was. Your mom called me 3 times yesterday, Jonathan said as we drove. She wanted to know everything about me, my job, my background, my intentions. I think she was trying to find some reason to disapprove. Did you tell her anything? I told her I loved her daughter, and that was all she needed to know. He glanced at me. Do you think they'll reach out again? Probably, but it will be different now. They can't pretend they don't know. They can't keep treating me like a disappointment when they know the truth. And if they do, then I have a family that actually wants me, your family, our family. We pulled up to his parents' house, where lights twinkled in every window, and I could see figures moving inside, preparing for celebration. This was where I belonged now, not because they were perfect, but because they had made room for me exactly as I was. In the weeks that followed, my mother tried to reach out repeatedly. Text messages apologizing, but also defending her actions, explaining she had only wanted the best for me. Victoria called once, saying I had been too harsh, that Mom was hurt. But underneath it all, I heard what they weren't saying. They were shocked to learn they had been wrong about me, and they didn't quite know how to process that. My father sent a letter a month later. In it, he admitted he had been a coward, that he should have stood up for me, that he was proud of what I had accomplished. It was the first time he had ever told me that, and though it was too late to undo the damage, it was something. Eventually, My parents lost their role as the family authorities. Other relatives, who had witnessed that Christmas confrontation through Victoria's reports, began to question the narrative they had accepted for years. Uncle Robert reached out to apologize for his silence. Cousins who had barely spoken to me started commenting on my professional achievements on social media, as if they had supported me all along. My mother's health declined after that Christmas. The stress of losing her position as the family matriarch, combined with my father's health issues, left her diminished. She and my father moved to a smaller house, closer to Victoria in Seattle, where they could help with the grandchildren but also be monitored. Victoria, now dealing with her own difficulties, a third child, a struggling marriage, the weight of being the golden child, found herself shouldering the burden of their care alone. As for me, I built the life I wanted. Jonathan and I launched our sustainable medical textile line, which became hugely successful. We traveled. We worked on projects that mattered. We spent time with his family, our family, and created traditions that felt authentic. And I reflected often on my revenge journey, realizing it wasn't really revenge at all. It was simply the act of choosing myself, of refusing to shrink to fit their expectations, of demanding to be seen. Sometimes the greatest revenge is living well, and living honestly, on your own terms.